Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, facilities management professionals of all ages. Here we are again, another episode of Wear Many Hats. Thank you very much for joining us. As ever, please like, follow and share the page on LinkedIn. We want the podcast to go out to as many facilities management professionals as possible to really aid in the reduction of that skills gap across the industry. Anyway, got a really exciting show for you today. Something we have never done before, but we know that the listeners have been clamouring for it. So we've done it. We've accepted it. We are going to interview more than one person on today's episode. And it's going to be an episode all about mentoring. So we have got the fantastic Noreen from CBRE and the fabulous Anthony from CBRE, and they're going to talk to us about their careers in facilities management and also how they've worked together as mentor and mentoree. Hi guys, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. Really honoured to be here.
Absolute pleasure.
Hi, thank you for having us. Honoured to be here.
Brilliant to have you guys on the show. Listen, firstly, let's just talk a little bit about your careers. We'll start with you, Noreen. So talk us through how you ended up in facilities management and where you are now.
So, like most people, I kind of just fell into facilities management. I graduated from university back in my 20s, and I was doing like a help desk job throughout university, like part-time. And I thought, let me do it for a year and see how I feel until I find what I want to do in life. And then 20-something years later, I'm still in the industry, loving it, even now. So that's how I got into FM, like most people. So it wasn't something that I'd heard of really before kind of getting a job as a help desk coordinator. But the best thing that's ever happened. I've met some wonderful people on the journey along the way.
So you kind of started at the lower rungs within the industry, and you slowly worked your way up during your 20-year career.
At the very bottom, and I've kind of worked my way. Getting there. Almost the very top.
Well, you never know everything, do you?
No,
in
exactly.
FM. That's the thing, isn't it? There's too much.
It's constant learning.
Yeah.
Like, there's no 2 days that are the same.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what I love about the industry and the role of being an FM is you kind of come in with, right, I'm going to do X, Y, Z today. And then sort of an hour in, you're like, I've just gone and done A, B, and C, and I've still got that to do. And kind of it's like constant just churn, and it's different, and I love the variety.
As we like to say on the show, you wear many hats.
That's it. We try.
Yeah. And Anthony, what about yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I'm quite unusual in my answer. I was one of the only people I've ever met who got into FM intentionally.
Really?
So I went to university, studied real estate management at Oxford Brookes.
Yeah.
From there, joined Lambert Smith Hampton on their graduate programme to become a surveyor, general practice surveyor.
Right.
And on my first rotation towards becoming a chartered surveyor, I was in the property management division, actually looking after an asset that's not too far from where we're recording this now.
Oh, really?
And had the best time, and became totally disenfranchised by becoming a surveyor. Totally fell in love with FM.
Yeah.
And the idea of having a long-term client and getting to know their business and integrating myself into it.
Yeah.
And just fell in love.
So you moved away from being a surveyor and became an FM?
Yeah, for all my sins.
That doesn't happen very often, does it? Usually, because an FM would work to be a surveyor, wouldn't they? Usually, that's kind of the... Is that the trajectory?
I totally reject that.
Reject it? Listen, teach me.
Only because I'll struggle to sleep at night if I accept that kind of thinking.
No, go on, tell us why, yeah.
No. As I said, I totally fell in love with the idea of becoming an FM. And it was that transition away from general practice surveying and real estate into FM that made me realise that it's quite an underrepresented part of the industry. Yeah, completely agree. Yeah. Right. And so, from then, moved over to CBRE about 18 months later.
Yeah.
Joined their Future Leaders programme, met Noreen.
Yeah.
Which was just probably, arguably, the best contact I ever made within the industry.
Wow. High praise there, Noreen.
I know, he's making me blush.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really good.
And from there, I've just stuck with CBRE. And had the most brilliant time, had some amazing clients, met some brilliant people, brilliant minds, worked on a few exciting projects.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
Oh, fantastic. So you were on the Future Leaders programme. So, Noreen, were you on the same programme as a future leader, or were you there as a support function for people coming onto that program? Tell us a little bit about that.
So the way the programme worked was accounts could select graduates, not select graduates, but kind of say we want a graduate on our account, and then the L&D team would give us a graduate. Ants was the first year I think they launched the scheme, and we were very fortunate to have been given Anthony.
Really?
And and it's just kind of the minute he joined the account, he just kind of clicked with everyone.
Yeah.
And just got himself really, really embedded into the account.
So there was a bit of chemistry there, really,
Oh,
in terms of how you
yeah.
guys interlink and work together as a partnership.
100%, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
From I think the day one, there was no like, oh, what's he going to be like, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It was the minute he walked in, it was like just like that, and we just kind of hit it off. And
Right.
he was very inquisitive. He asked lots of questions, and I loved that. I loved to ask questions, and I can tell a story. And he was very much like that. He was just kept asking, like, digging and learning for himself, and took initiative. And that's not something. I'm going to show my age here now, and that's not something that you see in sort of the youngsters nowadays. Is like that inquisitive streak where they want to learn, want to ask questions.
I say that to this one here all the time. I think he's a phoenix. You know what I mean? Like I really do. To be fair, he's very much the same as yourself, Ant. You know, inquisitive, ask questions and things like that.
Yeah, and even now, sort of, Ant's been in his current role for quite a while now, and went from being an FM to this role. And even now, like, he will kind of pick the phone up and go, what's this, and what should we do this, and I love that.
Yeah,
it just makes me feel useful, I suppose.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. So, Ant, do you think, because obviously you seem to have a fast start when you joined that programme, do you think that the surveying background gave you a slight advantage, or did it make that transition slightly easier for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think to be honest, there's a real blend of things that led to me being, I suppose, more confident in my role than I otherwise would have been. Having that kickstart with Lambert Smith-Hampton was brilliant. And I look back on those times in the property management team with rose tinted glasses. I thought it was the best time of my life.
How old were you then, out of interest, Ant?
I joined straight out of university, so I would have been 21.
Oh, baby then, yeah?
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Baby FM, look at that.
They looked after me, but I think as much as Noreen's testament feeds my ego, and I really appreciate it, I see it from the other end of the spectrum. I joined an account not quite quaking in my boots, given that I'd had a bit of work experience beforehand, but definitely with a lot to learn. And having Noreen and the team there supporting me in the way they did was, I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the largest provider of FM services in the UK, isn't it? You know, the big green machine. So there's an element of trepidation about joining that kind of business anyway, I expect. So that support was probably brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even at university, everyone, I think, based on whatever degree you're doing, you have this idea of certain companies that sit on this pedestal. For
yes.
You. CBRE was certainly one of those when I was going through my degree. Yeah. So, to be able to given the opportunity to join them and do all the great things I've been up to since joining. Is it seems really sad to say, but it's a real dream come true.
Hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I never thought I'd be a podcast host. You know, but I am. It's utilising my core skill, which is talking. And that's about it. Okay, brilliant. So obviously you went to university, and one of the few people that have done a degree in real estate and property. Where did you study it first off, and how did you find that experience? And would you recommend it as a route into the industry for young people that may be listening to the podcast?
It's a really interesting one, and I think there's a few kind of perspectives to take on university, how it sits within FM. Starting at the beginning, I studied at Oxford Brookes on the real estate management course, which was accredited by the RICS, and the idea was basically everyone that goes through it is leaning towards surveying.
Yes.
Or probably something similar in the real estate industry. I mean, it's a pretty constricted degree title, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Do I think it's something that everyone should do if they want to get into FM? Definitely not.
Right, okay.
I think since I went to university, apprenticeships have come on such a long way.
Yep.
Other routes of entry, I think the way the FM industry is connected into all of the support services, security, cleaning, everything else. Yeah. There are so many different ways to get into FM that I think it'd be pretty silly of me to say that getting a degree would be the only good way to do it.
Yeah. But it's clearly helped you in terms of your journey. So, people shouldn't discount it. That's what I'm saying.
No, totally.
A lot of people join the industry from other work streams, don't they, and things like that. So it's what I'm saying is it's a different route in, because you get a lot of people that they're a security officer or a front of house person or something like that, and they work their way up. But you've come in at a different angle. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Actually, I think one of the problems maybe is the degree I did was titled real estate management, but facilities management was not a big part of it.
No, I don't think there's not many universities that I know there is one out there. I can't remember for the life of me which university it is, but there's not many that offer that degree for people to go and do, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even within the real estate sector, the preference seems to be for students to lean more towards the surveying side, the advisory side, transactional. And it's a shame because I think facilities management offers so much. It's a growing industry.
That's something we need to change then, isn't it, really? You know, if that isn't out there for young people, because it's a great career. There's lots of different things you can do. You can get great positions and great money and things like that. You know, you can have a really good life operating in this industry. You know, we need to start lobbying government, don't we? Don't we need to start sorting it out? Come on, get these universities teaching FM.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And Noreen,
With that said, though, I don't even know how you would start to teach FM. It's not. I don't know, it's not like a textbook career, is it? Where you kind of, here's what you do and here's how. It's just, you learn as you go along.
Yeah.
So you don't even, it's a great idea, let's have an FM degree. Amazing, but then how would you teach it and who would teach it?
Yeah. But, because is there an FM apprenticeship? I believe there is,
yes,
isn't
the
there?
CBRE do run on.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
right,
they do.
okay. Maybe that's a better route in then, because you're doing the theoretical learning alongside the practical learning. So that could be a really useful vehicle for people to get involved in. So if we've got somebody out there, Noreen, that's, you know, they've done a similar thing to yourself, and whether that's they've started working somewhere else and they want to get involved in a graduate scheme or a mentor program with the likes of CBRE or any other property management company that you may want to speak to, what's the best way for them to go about it? What advice would you give them in terms of getting themselves into that position to have those conversations?
Be bold.
Well, I like that.
Right? So be bold, be willing to ask the questions, and like no question is a stupid question.
Yeah.
And I've always said that to everyone I've kind of guided or mentored or whatever. You know, I'd rather someone ask 100 questions and get something right than to not ask any and get it wrong.
Yeah.
Or get it, you know. So be bold, ask the questions, take risks, because without taking risks, I don't think we ever truly understand ourselves, and therefore we can't understand how far we can go.
So say yes first, and then
of ourselves.
Say yes first, and then worry about it afterwards.
Well, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission, right?
That's very true. Yeah, very true.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, what's the worst that could happen?
True.
A fire. You know, who knows?
But I mean, sort of most people that I know within the industry are more than willing to help the future FMs.
Yes.
You know, we want to create those like mini versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
So that when we sort of are off the scene in a few years' time, they can take over. And there's nothing more satisfying than kind of going, I done that.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of made that. So it's that's what I think. Be bold, take risks.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And Ant, same question to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Noreen's hit the nail on the head completely there. I think the FM industry and the people that make it up are some of the most open-minded people I've ever met. If you reach out to anyone, you've got more tools than ever. Reach out on LinkedIn, say, hi, look, I'm interested in what you do. I want to get where you've got.
Yeah.
I want to find out more about the company you work for. People are always really open-minded. Reach out. I would respond to anyone. I'm sure Noreen would do the same. And I've done it in the past. I've reached out to countless people.
Prepare yourself, people.
You're
going to get a few LinkedIn messages when this goes live, I'll tell you.
No, but do. I think, as Noreen said, be bold, reach out. The worst that's going to happen is someone sees your message and doesn't reply. Well, look, there's tons of us out there. Reach out to someone else.
Yeah.
And I think with the growing volume of ways to get into the industry, with internships and placements and graduate schemes and apprenticeships, and just joining directly, there's a number of roles within CBRE, but within all of our competitor companies as well, who are offering roles with limited to no experience.
And do you know what? There's no harm at all in taking those entry-level roles. Like, I know we kind of think, if I start at this like entry-level role, I'm never going to make it to this position. But you will, I promise you will. It's you who can drive that, no one else. Yeah. So you start off at the bottom, work your way up, and you learn as you go along.
Yep.
Because if you kind of go right at the top, you're setting yourself to fail.
Yep.
Because that pedal's really high.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, you know, start at the bottom. My advice to anyone is start at an entry-level role and work your way up. Learn.
Yeah.
You know, we've all done it. I could have been an FM 20 odd years ago, but I chose to take the entry-level role, work my way up, learn all the skills that I need. Yeah. And I've met wonderful people who've helped me to get to where I am today and beyond. Yeah, of course, yeah. So you're basically a pair of FM lifers then, is that the best way to explain it? I think I am.
Yeah.
And it's getting there.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
You've been indoctrinated into the cause.
Fallen in love.
Fallen in love. Oh, I like that. That's even better. Look at that. Brilliant. Okay, so just with regards to that, I want to touch on the mentoring program a little bit, just for anybody out there that's considering that kind of route in the future. Is that quite a structured program? What does it entail? Can you talk to me a little bit about it in terms of what it looks like? And
So I think for us personally, we didn't kind of go through the formal CBRE mentoring scheme.
Yeah.
When Ant joined the account, he had a manager, and I was just there as a support function. To kind of guide when the manager was busy. And so that was a lot of the time I was the easy one to reach out to. And we kind of both just fell into it, really.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was never...
So it happened naturally?
Yeah.
Is that what you would say?
I wasn't kind of set out like, I'm going to be a mentor and ask me anything you want. It was never like that. It was kind of, I was easy to get hold of, I suppose, because our manager was very, very busy.
Yeah. I quite like that. I prefer, in my head, I think that just feels like a more natural way to do it. Does that make sense?
And I think that's why it was so successful, was because it was so natural and we fell into it. It was comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I've kind of joined mentoring schemes, and you have that initial kind of like meeting with your mentor, and you're like, I can't be myself just yet, because he's going to think I'm an idiot or whatever. But, and then you kind of feel a bit put off by kind of going further, because you think, what do you think of me? What didn't you think of me?
Yeah.
But I don't say he all the time.
I call that the fear of youth.
Yeah.
Because I remember that. I remember being young and, you get your first sort of corporate job, I suppose, is the best way to explain it. And, these people just look massive, don't they?
It was just, and you meet the big directors and you're like, well, what is he or she going to think of me? Yeah. And then, you kind of shy away from it a little bit, and they don't ask the questions that you should be asking and the right way. But with us, it was just very natural. Kind of fell into it. It sounds like a dating show, doesn't it?
That's a new reality TV show, isn't it? Yeah. The FM experience, something like that.
So just be like, I was easy to get hold of. So he would just reach out to me, ask the question, and we kind of talk the situation through, and okay, so here's what I would do. But consider X, Y, Z, and then I would kind of talk him to answer his own question. Yeah. And learn the answer that way.
Oh, fantastic! And from your perspective, how did that help you?
He was scared.
That process. Yeah, be honest, because honesty is what helps people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've definitely fallen into this trap since. I found myself saying to a colleague the other day, we have an intern who works fairly closely with us, and I found myself saying, yeah, look, if they needed anything, I'm here. They can ask me anything. Yeah. But that's not really good enough, because when I was in that intern's position or as a graduate, I wasn't confident enough to go and ask the questions that I really needed answering. So I'd say a bit of a call to action. I think it'd be great if all of us could take a bit of a proactive approach and say, look, okay, I've recognised that someone fairly young or someone fairly new to the industry has joined my organisation. Yeah. I'm going to reach out to them. Not only am I going to ask them what do they need, but also I'm going to give them the information that I probably would have needed at their age, because they might not have asked for it.
Right, so basically you're taking what you learnt when you first started and applying that to new people coming through, which I think is fantastic, and I think that's a terrific approach. Because why wouldn't they be having the same challenges or concerns or worries that you were having at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. It's, when you're in that position, you might not be confident enough to ask. So as someone, hopefully many people listening are experienced and in the industry, go out and just give the information. Yeah. Because that person might not ask you. And look, again, as we're saying about people getting into the industry, the worst thing that someone can do is read your LinkedIn message and ignore you. The worst thing that candidate's going to do is go, yeah, I already know that, thank you very much. Yeah. But the best thing is you really enlighten someone, you really give them that drive, that fire in their belly to pursue a career in FM once they're already in. Yeah. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But from the other side to that, although sort of mentoring has been around a long time, it's not really had a label, I think, until recent times. And it's also hard for the mentor to kind of sometimes have that courage to say, how can I help you? Because you're like, am I going to make that person feel stupid if I ask them how I can help or what they need from me? Yeah. So there needs to be sort of more kind of openness and not training as such, but some sort of scheme around how to be a mentor as well. Yeah. We were fortunate, we kind of fell into it and it worked for us. Yeah. But, not everyone's going to have that kind of courage to say, how can I help you? What do you need from me? Yeah. For that same fear of what's that person going to say in return.
Right. So, Noreen, would you say that you're now more confident as a mentor after that experience of mentoring Ant?
I've won an award, so...
Have you?
I'd say I wouldn't say I'm overconfident, but I think I like to think I know what I'm doing. But
well, tell us what the award was. We always like to know.
It was for the BPICS 2023.
Your award.
I won the award for mentoring that Anthony and our intern Rabani at the time had nominated me for.
Right.
And I did it never thought I'm going to win.
Yeah.
Like, not at all, because there were some amazing people in the same category. We've done some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was like little old me. So, but never did I think I'm going to win. So really humbled to kind of go up there and collect my award. But I've still got on the mantelpiece, which is nice to look at sometimes.
Yeah.
When I'm passing by the room. But yeah, I wouldn't say like I'm great at it, but I'm just myself with it.
Yeah.
And I think that goes a long way, because there's nothing worse than just trying to be someone that you're not.
Yeah. Great to be recognised for something that you're passionate about.
100%. And I don't sort of talk about it enough, but I am really passionate about it. And it's not always about sort of kind of, Ant's like the perfect result of mentoring, right? He's excelled. It doesn't always kind of go that quickly, and it doesn't always go that well.
Yeah.
But to kind of, like, the FM's like a very kind of, it's a lot more diverse now than what it was, say, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So for me, getting into the mentoring part has been huge, because it means I can give those people who don't look typically like an FM a voice.
Yeah.
I can kind of guide them to say, do you know what, you can as a woman, as a minority group.
Yeah, of course.
Like whatever, you can kind of go in and you can say no and have that conversation without any fear that it's going to backfire on you.
Yeah.
So I love doing that, and kind of...
That's great, though, because you've kind of become a bit of a symbol then, haven't you, for other people from other backgrounds.
I hope so.
Whereby they feel, well, look, Noreen did it, so why can't I? If Noreen was brave enough to do X or Y, why can't I do X or Y?
And, if one person can kind of take away from the skills and kind of the information and knowledge that I try and impart onto people, and take it and learn from it and progress and kind of soar up here, and I'm just like, great, I love that. Yeah. Like, if one, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. No, you can really see the enthusiasm and passion that you have for it. I know that the audience will see it, but they'll get it from your voice,
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So, that passion, it comes across, which is fantastic. And, obviously you mentioned award. Ant, I know that you're actually the second winner of the Pattern Makers Young FM of the Year award that we've had on the show. So big shout out to Mr. Wayne Young. We've got somebody better than you actually, Wayne, so no. And tell us a little bit about the awards that you've won, what they were for, and give us a bit of an insight in how you think they may have helped you, or what really, in terms of your career journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been incredibly lucky since joining the industry. Firstly, by falling into the lap of the Mentor of the Year. I think that's, as an incoming graduate, probably about as lucky as you can get.
You should get a necklace, Mentor.
I know, that's it, Mentor of the Year.
Yeah. And like a flashing neon sign. Okay, Mentor of the Year coming through, countdown.
It all started off, actually, rather bizarrely, with a bit of a slap on the wrist.
Right.
So I joined CBRE in September 2021. And prior to that, I'd been working... basically playing around with a program called Unity, which is it's basically a game development tool.
Oh, really?
And on Unity, you can create virtual spaces and you can embed functionality and various other bits and bobs, and it's a great tool to create that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so when I joined CBRE, I had been playing around with creating a virtual office.
Right.
Not necessarily, actually, I'd be lying if I said at all, was it to do with FM. It was just something I enjoyed doing on the side of my life.
Yeah.
Built this virtual space.
What did you put
as a way of visualising it, it's probably something like Sims with more bells and whistles, that sort of thing.
Really?
Not as a game. I mean, it literally was just an empty space.
Right.
And this was at the same time as the term metaverse was exploding.
I remember
it was the
that.
most searched term of, I don't know whether it's 2021 or 2022, but it was huge. It was the equivalent
is that,
of
is that
AI
when
now.
Mark Zuckerberg did that absolutely horrible video?
No comment. So he created this space, and this was such a silly idea, and I wouldn't encourage anyone to do anything similar, but I put CBRE branding all over it.
Oh.
Posted it on LinkedIn and said, look, isn't this amazing? This is what the office of the future could look like. We'll all be wearing virtual reality headsets and living in some kind of horrific dystopian universe.
Right, okay.
Created...
Well, the outlook looks all right there. It looks great.
But off the back of this, again, seemed to double down on my lunacy at the time.
Yeah.
Spoke to some journalists, again, not in keeping with CBRE's policies, and I have apologised profusely since then for all of the fallout from that. But it led to some really interesting conversations. I think CBRE, to their testament, recognised how exciting of a space virtual environments are, or were at the time, and still are, and they're coming on leaps and bounds.
Yeah, of course.
And I was given the opportunity off the back of that by CBRE's head of tech to develop a space in collaboration with the product team within CBRE's advisory division.
Oh, wow.
Which looks like CBRE's Henrietta House, which anyone's seen is in the West End.
Yeah.
Absolutely glorious office near Bond Street. And we created a space called HH Elevated over the course of about 18 months.
Right.
Which was hyper interactive. I mean, there's videos and bits and bobs online that I'm sure you can find if you search HH Elevated, but had a load of functionality. You can hold meetings and do various things that had been seen before in parts, but not in the real estate industry. And I think that was the biggest takeaway, is real estate generally, not just in facilities, is not or wasn't that tech progressive. We were generally behind the curve.
Yeah.
Obviously tech as an industry would come first, and other industries would fall in line, and property was somewhere near dead last every single time something new and interesting came up.
And you've got a bit of a particular lean towards tech then, I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. My cousin and I, ever since we were young, would toy around with creating video games, and they were never that interesting, usually didn't work very well, but it was just playing with the tech, and we found it quite fun. And we were big gamers growing up. So definitely always had that as a bit of an interest. But creating that space kind of led into the first award, which was the Estates Gazette Tech Rising Star.
Wow.
And that was a real honour, brilliant sponsor, some great people involved. The Estates Gazette are an absolutely wonderful organisation who post some great stuff. And funnily enough, one of the journalists that I spoke to at the time when I created that first horrifying space. That then led into IWFM Newcomer of the Year when it started to apply to FM. Okay, what could this look like as either a replacement for a real environment, a real office, if you have enough functionality and the headsets are comfortable enough and all that sort of stuff that you have to get past, or as a tool, so using it in hard services or data logging, whatever it looks like. And it was more of a kind of, not necessarily announcement of anything groundbreaking, but a look towards, okay, what could facilities look like in 10, 15, 20 years? We're nowhere near there yet.
How is it going to transition? Because we talk about technology a lot on the podcast, especially things like AI and the tools that are available, and where's it going? Where do we see it in 5 to 10 years, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for anyone that's worn a VR headset, you know that after about, between 20 minutes and an hour, your head starts to ache, you start to feel a bit sick. It's not that inviting of a product, it's just an exciting idea of what could be. And I think as that technology moves forward, we will start seeing more spaces like that pop up, and companies will embrace that sort of thing. So it'll be really interesting. Bit of a watch that space. That was the IWFM Newcomer of the Year award, as I started to lean into, okay, how could this sort of thing be applied in FM? What could it do for the industry? And more of a let's have a conversation about it type piece. I was very, very lucky to win that Newcomer of the Year award. And there's been some
I don't think it sounds lucky to me. I mean, it sounds like you created something absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
A little bit groundbreaking in the industry, if you don't mind me saying. It really does sound that.
I think I was caught off guard because it was a real passion project. And the stars aligned, and it was relevant to the work I was doing with CBRE. And
but how great is that? That's something that you're passionate about, something that you really want to get. You enjoy doing anyway, because it doesn't feel like work then, does it?
Exactly.
I would say.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, this is kind of tailing off the topic of conversation, but I think it's things like that make you realise, okay, is the FM industry really something that is what it used to be? Is it really something that can't compete with tech? When you're in a classroom talking to kids and you're pitching the industry, why can't we stand up against the likes of insert enormous corporation here in a different industry? We really should be. We've got some really exciting stuff going on. The clients we work with, the products we work on, is all really interesting. And I think as more of this stuff starts taking shape, and as we start leaning into being kind of, I suppose, going from someone or an industry that's not very tech progressive into kind of leaning into the bleeding edge of technology. I mean, there's countless FM firms dealing with AI now. We're up there. We now have something we can stand on and say, look, we're working on some really exciting stuff. So.
I don't think our adoption is too bad in the industry. I mean, I've been seeing it for a while, especially when you're talking about smart buildings and integration and getting everything talking to each other and things like that. There are tools out there that allow you to do it. it's just where it's applicable, because it's a big change, isn't it? And one thing people don't like necessarily is change. They like a little change, they just don't like a massive one, do they? It's difficult to sell that into them, I think. Do you agree? Or...
Yeah, I think it depends. I think the big changes that are often quite daunting for individuals and corporations to accept are the ones that often aren't likely to be that well received. They're motivated by saving money or whatever it ends up being. I think leaning into technology in a big way can be really exciting. I think things like virtual reality, AI, we're all aware of the fact that they could drastically change many different industries, if not all industries.
Yeah.
And so I think coming up with exciting products and getting that pitch right, especially, is the key to making it exciting. Bringing the teams in with you and saying, let's go on this journey together.
Yeah, well, it's the new internet, isn't it? So if you, it seems like a long time ago now when the internet first came out, but, I remember the old dial-up modems and all of those things. But if you look at how that completely transformed the world, and it has the world we live in now is completely different to the world that I lived in 20 years ago. Completely different. And I think AI, I think that will happen, but I think it'll happen quicker. So it's taken about 20 years for us to get to this, really completely different stage. I think with AI, it'll probably take 5. I think it'll just motor on, It's going to be quite exciting. Flying cars soon, I'm telling you. Can't wait. No more stuck on the M25, eh? What's your view on technology, Noreen?
I'm too old to comment on it.
No!
I've been like you. Well, I was one of the ones who've seen the 20 years of the internet grow.
Yeah.
I was
We're not too
the
old
modem kind of girl, like the dial-up kind of.
We're a refined vintage, Noreen. That's what we are. That's what we are.
Tech is the way forward.
Yeah.
Right? For those, so the kids now who are sort of going into college, universities, whatever, to study and sort of talk about FM, they're all about technology.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all they know.
Yeah.
So it is the way forward, and we have to change with the change.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will never find that next generation of FMs.
Yeah, agreed. Can I just ask, Noreen, quite an interesting question? You're the mentor, you're the mentee.
Yeah.
Have you learnt quite a bit from Ant from a technology perspective?
So much.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that, because it's a two-way street, isn't it? That's what most people don't realise. I think it is a two-way street.
I'm trying to think of an example now.
Noreen's grinning at me for everyone that's listening. And she's grinning at me, I think, in part because for the last 4 years, I've been driving her absolutely crazy talking about the likes of the metaverse, AI, everything tech, putting her in a VR headset every opportunity I get. Look, test this new thing I've done to this space. And
So when Ant was working on the metaverse thing for HH, it was literally like every maybe week, he was like, I've just done this, can you put his headset on and have a look? And I was like, what am I looking at? And he's trying to explain to me, I was just like, why don't you sit in a room with someone and talk to them?
Yeah.
And it was that kind of thing. He was like, because this is the way forward.
Yeah.
And I was like, but why can't we just sit in a room and talk? Why are we sort of sitting in this virtual room and trying to test this? So it was just, that's why it's such a funny joke between us, because it was like, he's like, you're so old. And I was like, well, yeah, but
but that's like
nothing, for me, nothing beats human interaction.
Yeah, for me, I agree.
And,
I would find that probably quite difficult, because I'm a communicator. That's what I like to do, but I like to do it in person, I don't mind video calls; they're not too bad or all like that. But I wouldn't say no to it. I've never even tried a VR headset, to be quite frank. I think I remember my view of virtual reality is what it was 20 years ago, and it was really quite crap. So I work on the assumption that it's still a little bit crap. It probably isn't. I'll have to try it.
I don't want to speak for the whole product of virtual reality, but there's still some big problems with it. But it's like we had things like Skype 15 years ago.
Yes.
Now everyone has meetings on Zoom, Teams.
Yeah.
This product exists now, and it's a little bit strange and rough around the edges.
But it will develop.
Exactly.
It will do,
The point is, okay, look ahead. Look
as it becomes more
into the
adopted,
future.
that's when it starts to get developed more, isn't it, usually? You would think. Because COVID forced a transition, didn't it? It forced a transition into video meetings. Some companies were doing it, some weren't, but it forced it. Everybody had to do it during that period, and now it's a part of our lives. A massive part of our lives. There's not one week that goes by where I don't have a video call. I don't know about you guys, but at some point in the week I will have a Teams call. Which is really crazy when you think before COVID, I might have one a year. Literally. How mental is that? And it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, you said there's not a week that goes by without a video call. I think I'm basically dreaming in Zoom and Teams at the moment. Because I seem to be on them all the time. So, I mean, look, it shows how technology integrates itself into our life. whether or not we choose to accept it, it will arrive at a certain stage. And once this technology reaches that inflection point, we may well be there. And if every company starts adopting it, then it's a tough hill to die on as an individual to say, I'm not going to use it and I'm not going to embrace it.
Did you think that we'll ever end up in a point where the metaverse is how we work? You know, like that film, Ready Player Guy. Have you seen it?
Yeah, Ready Player One.
Yeah, Ready Player One.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I liked that film. Thought it was a good film. And we're going way in the future now, but you know, in 25, 30 years' time, is that how business is going to be done? Everybody's just working from home with a VR headset on, walking around on some kind of pedestal. You know, do we think that might happen? I don't know.
It would certainly aid my skill set and my capacity for my career if that was the case. But yeah, who knows? I mean, it's quite a scary thought.
You'd be building them, wouldn't you?
Oh, fingers crossed. Maybe AI by then. They could probably do a better job than I could.
Making my millions as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't envisage that. I really can't, because I think. Because at first everybody working from home was cool, wasn't it? Now we want people back because we understand that there's a trade-off in that, in terms of that human interaction, and it affects people in a detrimental fashion from a mental health perspective. So we want to create that community again, don't we? So it's going to have to be a blend, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As we were leaving COVID, I actually worked, this is going to sound so sinful now with me both working at CBRE, but I actually took a job for a period of a week at a different firm. It's not on my LinkedIn, nobody will ever find out who it was. But they decided to fully embed working from home as a 5-day-a-week practice. We all work on Teams, and it was impossible to build a relationship with anyone, really.
Yeah, it's tough.
But also, I think the world isn't so big anymore.
No.
And we are now, you know, I work on an account that's international. You know, we've got teams in EMEA, in APAC, in the US.
Yeah.
So there's no way I'm going to like travel out to those every day.
Oh, no, of course.
So, you know, you're going to, and for some people, like that is, like their job is across continents. So they they don't have like a London office to be in, for example.
Yeah.
So they have no choice but to stay at home those 5 days a week and work.
Yeah.
You know, when we were on an account together, it was very much that. We had an EMEA-wide team, and so we could work from home every single day, but we'd connect virtually.
Yeah.
So it is the way forward. No matter how much we try and kind of go, we're going to have to get back in the offices and connect. I think the world's shrunk too much for us to do that now.
Yeah. I think history will look back at COVID in the same way that we look back at things like World War II and World War I, in terms of the impact it had on society. We don't see it right now, but I think in 20 years' time we'll go back and we'll
at
go, wow.
CBRE, especially within that old sort of Johnson Controls division, what we call the enterprise business now.
Yeah.
It is those sort of multinational accounts. So
Yeah.
those were working from home even before COVID happened.
Yeah.
So for us, it was no big deal. Not no big deal, that's the wrong words to use, but the transition to working from home wasn't that big because we were doing it already.
Yeah, it didn't impact me. I mean, I've always been a remote worker, so from my perspective, I didn't really notice much change, apart from the video calls and not being able to get a haircut, which was horrible. But
then I know some people who were in the office every day, and to kind of then go into that impact, being at home with their partner or their, you know, with their children, was a real struggle.
Well, the one industry that was in the office most days is facilities management. Because you guys had to build all of the protective measures that needed to be put in place so that people could return to the office.
Yeah.
So it was similar to the NHS and things like that. You know, slightly obviously different. The NHS was dealing with something completely different, but you were still trying to deal with infection control measures and things like that. Things that were probably relatively alien to most FMs. But you know what? The industry stepped up, didn't it? It really did.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, wow, what an
Instantly.
industry. Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. I remember doing site visits and, you know, I've spoke to loads of FMs about it, and, you know, they actually look back at it, although it was one of the hardest parts of their careers, they find it really rewarding because because it was so challenging that you know, similar to what you said before about getting out of your comfort zone. Everybody was thrown out the comfort zone during COVID. Absolutely everybody. So really, really interesting, to be fair. Okay. Brilliant, guys. That kind of brings us to the end.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. How did you find it?
Really good fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really enjoyed chatting to you guys. Thank you very much for joining us. As an experiment for our first 2 people podcast, I think that's not too bad.
Yeah.
I think it's gone all right. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. No,
We're a
it's
good
absolutely
double
brilliant.
act.
Yeah, a double act. You were very good as well. Very good. Thank you very much for your insights, guys. Thank you for coming and collaborating with us. To all of our listeners out there, as obviously Ant and Noreen have already said, if you want to reach out to them on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. When we post this, we'll put a link on for their profile. Feel free to reach out and ask any questions you want. That's the end of another show. Thank you very much, guys.